timely to ask Ilana Tahan of the British Library to do a lecture on ketubot and select from the British Library's exquisite collection to show us tonight. And we're very privileged that she's actually done this specially for us. So Ilana Tahan was educated at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in Israel and at Aston University in Birmingham, where she received her MPhil. She joined the British Library in 1989. In 2002, she became head of the Hebrew collections that contain some 3,000 manuscripts, about 7,000 Genizah manuscript fragments, and over 70,000 printed books and serials. Since 2010, she has been lead curator of the Hebrew and Christian Orient collections, with additional responsibility over the library's Armenian, Coptic, Ethiopian, and Syriac holdings. In 2009, Ilana was awarded the OBE, the Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, for services to scholarship. So, Simantov, Ilana, and Brucha Haba'ah. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Lynn and Lawrence, for introducing me and for inviting me to present this evening. And my talk will be, of course, about marriage contracts from the collection of the British Library. And without further ado, I'd like to share my screen. You'll excuse me if I make any errors, but I will just press share and then slideshow, and from the beginning, and let's go. That's my main. Yes. And just to, as a matter of introduction, I'd like to just give you a sort of overview of what today's presentation will include. So in the first instance, I'll be talking briefly about the main stages in the development of the ketubah formula. Then I will carry on a little bit about the decoration of Jewish marriage contracts. I will give a short overview of the British Library's ketubot collection with selected examples, which are most of them decorated. And finally, we'll have the Q&A session. The celebration of a marriage is one of Judaism's happiest and most joyous events. To mark the occasion, a marriage contract, a ketubah, literally a writ or a deed, is drawn up stipulating the husband's binding obligations and responsibilities. The writing of a ketubah has been an integral part of Jewish weddings for over 2,000 years. A mandatory deed given to a Jewish bride on her wedding day for safekeeping, the ketubah is considered one of the earliest documents granting women legal and financial rights. Its traditional Aramaic text lays down the bridegroom's financial and other obligations towards his bride, thus ensuring her protection and security should the marriage end through divorce, desertion, or death. Since the Talmudic era, that is between the 3rd to the 6th century, rabbinic authorities have attempted to formulate the exact text of the clauses in this significant legal document. Both the Babylonian and Palestinian Talmud contain significant relevant paragraphs in the Mishnaic tractate Ketubot, which is part of order Nashim, woman. Although no precise ketubah formulary is found in either, the Talmudic ketubah formed the basis of the ketubah text that evolved through the centuries, reaching the standard form known to us today. And I started here with something extremely important from the Babylonian Talmud. It's a quote from the tractate Bava Kama 89, chapter 89a. It is forbidden for a husband to live with his wife without a ketubah, even for an hour. I've also found out recently, before I start telling you about the stages of ketubah text development, that one that owns a Torah scroll, he can actually sell it in order to get married. So it's a mitzvah to sell a Torah scroll in order to get married. That is in Judaism, of course. Now, what are the stages of ketubah? How did the ketubah text develop? In order to, to find out a little bit of what we have today, a ketubah today is nothing of what it used to be saying in the Babylonian times, in the Talmudic times. So how did it all start? Now, in the pre-Talmudic period, and here I marked circa 5th century BCE to 2nd century Common Era, there have been, in archaeological sites, Aramaic papyri fragments of marriage contracts. And also, in the Babata archive, there have been found fragments in Greek which seem to be a type of marriage contract. So these were the earliest. The Babata archive is was found in the cave letters by Igal Yadin, one of the famous Israeli archaeologists, in the Judean desert. Now, during the Talmudic rabbinic period, that is from about 3rd to the 5th century Common Era, we already find significant clauses in the Mishnah Nashim, as I've already mentioned, in the tractate Ketubot. And these significant clauses relating to marriage contracts are found in both the Babylonian and the Palestinian Talmud. Moving on to the 10th to the 10th century, we talk about Palestinian ketubah. These are ketubot that were actually found in the Cairo Genizah, and I'm sure that you all know what the Cairo Genizah is. It's a warehouse where all writings, both religious, but also religious and secular, were kept before they were actually buried, because according to Jewish tradition, documents that bear God's name are of religious value must be buried in a cemetery. So these documents had been kept in the Cairo Genizah, which is a warehouse located, in fact, in the attic of the Ben Ezra synagogue in Fustat, Old Cairo in Egypt. And this archive, this enormous archive of hundreds of thousands of documents was discovered in the 19th century, and the bulk of this archive was brought to this country, and it is now deposited in the Cambridge Taylor Schechter Genizah Institute. So the Palestinian ketubot that have been found in the Cairo Genizah, they date from the approximately 10th to the 12th century, and they are not exactly following the formula that we can find in the Babylonian and the Palestinian Talmud, in which case they are unique, because some of the clauses that we can detect in the rabbinic ketubah are actually not found in the Palestinian ketubah. Now, from that point of view, each contract is unique because each contract contains specific details related to that particular couple. Now, moving on to the 6th century, in fact, between the 6th and the 15th century Common Era, we're talking about the European ketubah, and the European ketubah is fundamentally based on the formula drawing from the Babylonian Talmud. So we have a sort of development, gradual development that, as you can see, takes centuries until the modern times. So what happens in the Middle Ages between the 6th and 15th century? There are many medieval rabbinic authorities that are, in fact, specifying the text of the ketubah and including it in their own writings. And we are talking here about great scholars like Moses Maimonides, who obviously included that in his Mishneh Torah, the code of law that he wrote in Fustat in the 12th century. We're talking here about the famous Rabbi Tzemach Duran from Mallorca, who also spoke about his about this particular subject in his own works, and various others. But in spite of the fact that the basic formula was somewhat crystallized and standardized, we can still see variations reflecting economic, legal, and social circumstances in ketubot that date back to that particular period. In between the 16th and 19th century, there is a further stage in the development of the ketubah text. And in this particular period, we are witnessing a dissemination of lots of manuals written by rabbis and scholars. And these particular manuals comprise instructions and formularies on writing contracts. And this dissemination was in fact enabled through the new technology of printing. Printing allowed scholars to disseminate their works. So the ketubah becomes even more crystallized and more standardized, and it's almost like the one we are familiar with nowadays. So this is just a sort of timeline, if you want, just a very brief overview of the stages of the development of the ketubah clauses. Now, coming to the ketubah decoration. Of course, not all the marriage contracts that were given over the centuries were decorated. In fact, if we're looking at the same stages that I mentioned earlier, and we look at this timeline, we see that, for instance, in the pre-Talmudic period, in the Aramaic papyri and fragments, none of them have any decoration. In the Talmudic rabbinic period, maybe there are sort of very rare cases of decorated ketubot. What we do find, what's the kind of decoration that it is found in some ketubot is actually found in the Cairo Genizah among the Palestinian ketubot. And this particular, sorry, I think that I jumped to the wrong slide, sorry. So in the pre-Talmudic period, we have no decoration. In the Talmudic period, we have no surviving example of ketubot. In the Palestinian ketubot that were found in the Cairo Genizah, we have certain motifs that appear. For instance, there are drawings of the menorah, and there are some micrographic designs. So we already see some sort of embellishments in this early Palestinian ketubot that were found in the Genizah. In the medieval ketubot, there are some surviving examples from the pre-expulsion Spain. And these are very simply decorated. The sort of the key decorative elements are floral, some sort of bouquets or a wreath of flowers, some birds maybe, some geometric patterns, and maybe a bit of micrographic patterns. So here and there you find this kind of marriage contracts. Now, from the end of the 15th century to late 19th century, ketubah ornamentation flourished among the communities of the Sephardi diaspora, particularly in Italy, but also where other Sephardi communities were established, that is in England, in Holland, North Africa, and the Ottoman Empire, because we know that after 1492 and 1497, the Jews that lived previously in the Iberian Peninsula dispersed, and they traveled through Europe, and they arrived in the Balkans, in the Ottoman empires, and some of them ended up in the North African countries like Morocco, where they continue to speak their own dialect, the Ladino dialect, and so forth. And some of them ended up in England and also in Holland. Now, in the 18th and 19th century, ketubah decoration blossomed among Jewish communities living in Islamic countries, notably in Asia, and I singled out here Afghanistan and Persia, because in many collections around the world, there are marriage contracts from these particular two countries, and they are very beautifully decorated. Now, in Italy, where the Sephardi communities thrived, the art of ketubah decoration reached its pinnacle in the 17th and 18th century. And here, indeed, we come across lavishly ornamented pieces in which the main artistic motifs are biblical scenes, biblical narrative, cherubs, coats of arms, micrographic designs, temple columns, sort of architectural design, zodiac signs, and many other patterns and elements, decorative elements. So here are, again, a sort of, this is again a timetable, a timeline, sorry, of the main ketubah decoration stages that have happened in Judaism. Now, let me go to the British Library ketubot collection. Now, I wouldn't say that this the ketubot collection, the marriage contracts collection in the British Library is enormous. As you can see here, we have approximately, well, just over 90 specimens from across 3 geographical zones: Asia, Europe, and Asia, Europe, and Middle East. And they originate in approximately 18 countries, would you believe it? So we have ketubot from Egypt, from England, from Gibraltar, Greece. I actually listed all of them, and you can see all the countries, all 18 countries, from where we have samples and examples of ketubot, decorated ketubot. And some of them are not decorated, of course. In fact, more than half of our ketubot are unadorned. They haven't got any kind of decoration. They are just plain text, and they don't have, apart from the signatures of the edim, of the witnesses, there is nothing else added to the ketubah. So we sort of have about 45 to 50 ketubot that are decorated. Now, of these 50, about 30 were crafted in Italy. So you can see that the Italian output of ketubot is the largest in our collection. Now, a good number have been captured digitally as part of the Hebrew manuscript digitization project. This was a project that entailed the digitization and scanning with metadata of all the 3,000 manuscripts in our collections. And these are accessible free of charge on the digitized manuscripts website. I can give you the website link at the end if you are interested. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you will have some questions, but let's leave the questions for the after the presentation. And now to the anticipated stage of my presentation, and these are the actual specimens, the actual examples from our collection. I will start my presentation with the earliest ketubah, which comes from the Cairo Genizah. As you can see, the condition of this ketubah, which the full ketubah is this single piece of paper on the right. As I'm looking at it, it's on the right, and on the left, it's I zoomed in, I enlarged the upper part of the document. So this document comes from the Cairo Genizah, and the names mentioned in this ketubah, I'll give you the names, who are the bride and groom. As you can see, it's an unadorned document. It has lots of little holes because it's so old, 1064 to 1065. This is the date of the document. The upper part is in a sort of larger Hebrew script, which is a square script. And then there is the lower part in a much smaller kind of script. Of course, these were written by hand. And I will explain what these two parts are. Now, the people mentioned in this ketubah are Faisal ben Ephraim and Akala, Gerushato, his divorcee, Hasna bat Yosef. Now, this document is in fact a ketubah that Faisal ben Ephraim gave to his divorced wife. We believe that he was married to her, but something happened, they divorced, and he had a change of mind and he remarried her. Because it says beferush, it says very clearly grushato. It means he divorced her before. So it's an interesting document. And what is even more interesting, that in the first few lines, we have the same clause as in a modern ketubah. It tells us the names, the first paragraph tells us the names of the bridegroom and the bride, and then where it took place, where the wedding took place. It says clearly Fustat, and it says Mitzrayim. If I point out here, it says here Fustat, Befustat, Mitzrayim, Be'al, Nilus, on the river Nilus. Yes, it's very much like a modern ketubah. The data, the details are very much like that. The writing is not easy to read, but I can assure you that here it says Befustat, Mitzrayim, Be'al, Nilus. What is even more interesting and tells us a little bit more about where this ketubah comes from is that the person who is signed here, I'm pointing with my mouse, the person who wrote this ketubah was one called Ali ben Amram. And Ali ben Amram lived in the second half of the 11th century. So that tallies very clearly, obviously, with the date of our marriage contract. And he was the religious head of the Palestinian community in Fustat. And he was obviously a Chacham, and he wrote ketubot. And I mentioned, let me move to the next slide, sorry. I mentioned that the second part, the lower part, in much smaller script, which here I enlarge for you, ladies and gentlemen, is also part of this document, although it has absolutely nothing to do with the ketubah of Faisal ben Ephraim and Hasna bat Yosef. It is in fact a get, yes, a divorce bill, also written, also penned by Ali ben Amram, because we know that he signed his name here again at the bottom, and it says Ali Echaver Bar Amram Shaliach Amatzliach. So we know that this gentleman, Ali ben Amram, was a prominent figure in the Palestinian community in Fustat. And not only did he write ketubot, he also wrote bills of divorce. But why do we have this together? That is because in those times, paper was very expensive. So every unwritten part of the document was used for something else. In fact, this document on the verso, I won't bother you, I won't show it to you now. On the verso of this ketubah and bill of divorce, there is yet another document from another Beit Din in Fustat, which has absolutely nothing to do with these two documents that I've just showed you. So a very interesting document, and the earliest we have in our collection. And now I come from another document, which is again one of the earliest in our collection. As you can see, it's from Italy, 1457. And I said earlier that in Italy, the art of ketubah flourished, especially in the 16th and 17th and 18th century. But here we have a very plain ketubah. What is so interesting about it? First of all, it is a bit easier to read. And who are the people that are mentioned in this ketubah, which appears to be from a place called Lari in Calabria. Calabria is the southern part of Italy, the last part. It actually borders the Straits of Messina, which separate Italy from Sicily. So Calabria is that part of Italy. In fact, the boot, the very end of the Italian boot, if you look at a map. But why this ketubah, which doesn't look very exciting, as you can see, again, very old and not in the best of conditions, why is it so interesting? It is interesting because the contents are interesting. What we have here is a ketubah that was given to Penina Bat Mar Yosef, that is the name of the bride, by a bridegroom called Ben Solomon. That's all there is in this. And we have the date. We have that it was given Beshlosha Asar on the 13th day of the month of Av, according to the Hebrew calendar. And it Shnat Hameshet Alafim 217 לבריאת העולם, and that corresponds to approximately 1457. And it is interesting because in this particular document, every single object that the wife brings to the household, in other words, her nadunia, her dowry, is recorded exactly. Not only we have the value of each object in gold coins, bezehuvim, zehuvim means gold coins, but we also have an interesting combination of Hebrew words with Judeo-Italian. Sometimes they refer to the bed that the bride brings to the household as mitah, which is the Hebrew word for bed. But on one occasion, it says letto. Letto. Letto is the Italian word for bed. What is also interesting is, from the description of all the objects listed here as part of her dowry, we understand that this lady was a very wealthy woman. Everything is weighed in gold. Everything is, I mean, for instance, her sheets, she talks about zdinim levanim, sheets, bedding, embroidered, and it says here, appunto napolitano, which must be a kind of embroidery they used at that period, because that is mentioned twice. And then it talks about capitoli. It means the capital that she's bringing. It's not only objects and beautiful bedding embroidered in gold, embroidered in silk. You have to imagine that, you have to remember that at the time in the Middle Ages, the Jews that lived in Calabria, they were merchants, and many of them dealt with silk. Silk was one of the important products of Calabria, famous silk products. So everything is silk and gold embroidery and wonderful things. So I think what attracted me to this particular document is the combination of the introduction of Judeo-Italian into, I have never come across any such document. And that already shows you that ketubot are not, you know, standard, that each community, wherever they are, and each couple might have, commission a different kind of ketubah in which they insert special details, and we learn from these details. We learn about their traditions. We learn about their socio-economic background. So these ketubot are not just documents proving that there has been a marriage, but also they are historical documents of great value. Moving on to a decorated manuscript, which is quite early, 1680, from a place called Senigalia. And the couple here is Moses ben Shabtai, that is the bridegroom, who married Diamante Bat Israel of Camerino. Camerino is a locality in Italy. and the wedding took place in Senigallia in 1680. What is beautiful about this decorated ketubah is, first of all, how lavishly illustrated it is, how colorful, and how beautifully ornamented it is. First of all, it has a scalloped top, as you can see, very beautiful. And then, apart from the ketubah itself, which is sort of under this glorious arch, which includes many inscriptions, biblical inscriptions, you have the decorations are mostly holy places in the Holy Land. Of course, the center, just above the arched element in the middle of ketubah, it's the temple. But it is the temple as imagined in Italy by an Italian artist at that particular period. And there are other places. There are places, for instance, there is Migdal David, the Tower of David, one of the monuments and one of the buildings also at the very top of the contract is Migdal David. I can point to it here, that's Migdal David. At the very, very top, there is the city of Hebron. And you can see there are two sort of medallions which would have contained the coats of arms of these two families, but maybe because that was, maybe these families were not of a sort of noble origin, there are, the medallions have been left empty. So there are also beautiful inscriptions like Besimana Tava Umazala, which are, of course, Aramaic inscriptions. And all these buildings here and cities that flank the main text of the ketubah are beautifully drawn and beautifully colored. And to show you a little bit more of that, I enlarged the upper part to show you how the temple looks. You can see it here, and you can see Migdal David here, and you can see now the two fantastic cartouche that would have included the coats of arms and the writing, and there are also two birds, and there is a cockerel. Now, sometimes the cockerel is here, I'm pointing to it, at the very, very top. The cockerel sometimes is found on coats of arms or that belong to Italian family. But I know that they will be called Gallico, and here the names are nothing to do with that particular family. Now, moving on to a magnificent, one of our most beautiful Italian, it just shows you how lavishly illuminated and how much work and how much money would have been spent on some of these marriage contracts when they are commissioned. It shows you how affluent the families were in order, yeah, I mean, this is a testimony of the wealth of these families. This is a ketubah that was given in Modena. I'm just trying to find out the exact details of this ketubah. And I think that, sorry. This ketubah was can't find now, sorry. Just one moment. I seem to have mixed up my notes. This was given to a couple in Modena and in 1757. What is important about this ketubah is that you have all the elements that I mentioned earlier, elements, decorative and embellishments that are used in lavishly illuminated and decorated Italian ketubot. For instance, you have the architectural columns as you know, in the middle, and they actually frame the text of the ketubah. These are the two columns featured here. I'm pointing to them. Then all around the first frame, which surrounds the ketubah, it's all micrographic design. And micrographic design, it means minute lettering, which is usually taken from the Bible and very often from the book of Psalms. So it's not just some patterns that the artists have decided to add, to embellish and to ornament the ketubah. These have a meaning. And yet around that, you can see how many frames have been created around the text, the main text of the ketubah. And then the red background of the following frame, which I'm pointing to it now, it's cut out paper. Cut out paper and parchment, and cutouts were only started to appear in artifacts in the 18th century. So that shows that the ketubah was in fact produced in 1757. And around it are the signs of the zodiac. All around it are signs of the zodiac. And one interesting element about this ketubah, in fact, an interesting detail is that instead of writing the correct date when the marriage took place, and that was 1757, somebody who owned this artifact at some point in their life altered the date, making it October 1557, and that is in order to increase the value of the document. But the document dates, in fact, from 1757, and the proof to that is that the cutouts that we see here with the red background, the cutouts are in fact an innovation of the 18th century. It has not been used before. So this is one of our most lavishly illuminated Jewish marriage contracts from Italy. Absolutely superb. I mean, you can see it here, how glorious it is, but you must come and see it. It's also a very, the size is very large. Now I'm moving to another country in Europe, and that is Greece. And you can, I showed before how the zodiac decorated and embellished the Italian ketubah from Modena. And here I am showing a ketubah that comes from Greece, and you already see that the same elements, the zodiac signs, embellish this ketubah as well. The place that this ketubah was given is Ioannina. Ioannina is in northwest part of Greece. It had a very old community that dates back to the to the second temple. After the second temple was destroyed in 70 CE, Jewish slaves were taken to Ioannina, and they established a Jewish community. So it's a very, very old community. During the early 20th century, because of financial and economic reasons, a lot of Jews from Ioannina immigrated to the United States, to New York, and they settled in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And a few years back, when I visited New York, I happened to be in that area, and there is a beautiful little synagogue that was sort of established by the Jews that came from Ioannina, and it's still it's like a little museum now. I hope it still exists. This again, it's you can see the influence of European art, of Italian art. Obviously, this kind of ketubot were influenced by the local trends, and the zodiac elements were a very popular decorative element in European ketubot. You also have here in the middle a cartouche, a medallion, with two rampant lions and the crown. I don't think that the couple here were of royal descent. In fact, their name were Moses ben Matitya Nachman, and the bride was Rosa bat Rafael Solomon Camino. And the annotations all around, you know, the document are from Proverbs, mostly 1822. For instance, there is one here, Matzah Isha Matzah Tov, at the very top. I'm pointing to it now. Matzah Isha Matzah Tov, whoever found a wife, he's blessed. Yes, that's from Proverbs 18, verse 22. And then the Aramaic formula, Besimana Tava, Umazal Amalia, Lechatan Ulekala, Ulekol Israel, Amen. So a bracha, a blessing to the couple. Moving on, a gorgeous, beautifully elegant ketubah from Lisbon, quite late, 1892. And I have chosen that because, not only because it's very delicately and very elegantly decorated with this wreath of fresh flowers and foliage and ribbons. And again, you have, you know, the lovely blessing, Simantov, Mazal Tov in Aramaic, Vesha'av, Veratzon, Ve'atzlacha, Ratzon, goodwill, and Atzlacha, success. And this particular ketubah was given by Yehuda ben Yosef ben Abraham Siboni to Cecilia Sophia bat Eliyahu bar Yehuda Siboni. Probably these two families were somehow related, maybe cousins. These are in Lisbon in 19th century. We know that the Jews left Lisbon in 1497. So people who resettled in Portugal around that time, who went there, they were not, they may have had ancestry from the Spanish and Portuguese ancestry, but some of them came from other parts of the world. I know people who went to Portugal to revive the communities in Faro and other parts of Portugal. They came from South Africa, they came from North Africa. So they may have had many generations back relations. I believe this particular couple, they had, because I have chosen this ketubah because of something very important mentioned in it. Apart from the, you know, the sum of money that the husband pledges to his wife, and apart from the tosefet, the additional amount of money that he is ready to give her, because, for a betula, for a virgin bride, you have to pay 200 zuzim, and for a grusha, a divorcee, you will pay half of that price. So obviously this was a virgin bride. Apart from the financial obligations that are set and laid out in this ketubah, there is something very important. And it says, all this ketubah has to be enacted according to the people Amegurashim Mikastilia, the people who have been expelled from Spain, from Castilia. And may God avenge their sort of all the bad things that happen to them. That is actually included in the marriage contract. I found that very poignant, because obviously this couple not only gives 3 generations, you can see bar dat and bar dat and bar dat, to make sure that they are Jews, and that is often found in the Portuguese ketubot and also in ketubot from Gibraltar. But this particular point, that everything has to be done according to the takanot of the Megurashim of Castilia, according to the custom of the people who left, according to the custom, the Sephardi custom of Castilia. Very interesting indeed. And now I come to a very beautiful and very elegant ketubah from Gibraltar, beginning of the 19th century. And you can see again here some of the elements, decorative elements that I mentioned for the other ketubot, like the Italian one that had these magnificent columns. And this ketubah, this contract, was given by Simantov ben Avraham Sekera to Bathsheba, the daughter of Aaron Abuktzitz. They may have been from North Africa. The name of the bride sounds very sort of North African, resonates with some names that I remember that are North African. A lovely, lovely ketubah from Gibraltar. What I'd like to say about this particular and the one before, sorry, the ketubah before, you can see in the middle of the Portuguese, the Portuguese ketubah, in the middle, in very large letters, you have high. High, the numerical value of high is 18. The same kind of element is found in this ketubah. So the high, which means 18, and it's 3 times the value of the mohar that the husband pays to his bride, is also high. It's a symbol of life, because high means life. It means 18, of course, but it also means life. And it's sort of a kind, like an amuletic kind of element in the ketubah. So you find that in the ketubah from Gibraltar, that is always found in ketubot from Gibraltar, and you find that in the previous one, the Portuguese specimen, and you can also find it in this ketubah. The high is, prominently displayed in the ketubah, in this ketubah from Tangier, which is quite late, 19th century, from Morocco. And here it's evident that there are so many elements borrowed from Islamic art, like, for instance, this sort of arched inscription, and the floral and the bouquets of flowers at the top, and it's all colors and gold. You can see the gold, it's quite prominent. And then the 2 columns that frame the ketubah itself. Not an easy kind of script. This ketubah was given by Pinhas bar Benjamin Habib, yes, to Esther bat Binyamin bar Solomon bar Yitzhak. You see the girl, the bride's name has 3 generations of people. That ensured, you find that in sort of Sephardi and Oriental ketubot, to absolutely make sure that the couple were of Jewish descent. I wanted to mention something about the decoration that I may have missed before. Why were Sephardi, mostly Sephardi ketubot and ketubot that were given in Islamic, to Jews that resided in Islamic decorated, and you don't find the same phenomenon among Ashkenazi communities? It is something to do with, again, with preventing the addition of any other conditions apart from what is mentioned in the ketubah. So the decoration, by filling in the gaps on the paper, on the parchment, because we have ketubot on parchment and we have ketubot on paper, by filling it with decorative elements, the rabbis made sure that nothing unacceptable was added to the terms of a ketubah. So there was a reason for it. So the Sephardi ketubah is a living document. You can see that there are so many variations. Whereas the Ashkenazi ketubah, and I haven't got many examples to show you, as you can see, there are hardly any. They are all from Sephardi and Oriental communities. They are very strict, very rigid, mostly text. So that was one of the reasons, to avoid adding any unnecessary elements to the terms specified in the document. That is one of the reasons, a very important reason indeed. And now we come to a very interesting ketubah, which is from Afghanistan, from Herat, again, quite late. We know that in Afghanistan, there was a very important Jewish community. I want to tell you a little bit about this community. And this was a community formed by Jews who escaped, in fact, from Persia. And I have a little bit of information here. Although Jews have lived in Herat since early Islamic times, it became the largest and most influential Jewish community in Afghanistan during the 19th century, when persecuted Jews from the Persian town of Mashhad streamed into Herat. As a result, decorated Jewish marriage contracts produced in Herat share many artistic characteristics and features with contracts from neighboring Mashhad. So what you see here, it's a ketubah on paper, not the most refined maybe, because you have this pinkish color all around, not particularly laid out regularly and in nice strokes. But in the middle, you have a very decorative ketubah. And this ketubah was, in fact, given, I want to find the important information about the bridegroom and his bride. Pinhas ben Yosef and Batsheva bar Nathanael. So these are the two names of the bridegroom and the bride. What is interesting here is the Islamic influence on the decoration. And you can see that there are, for instance, 5 arcuated elements at the top with vases interspersed with various inscriptions. And again, there are 5 geometric patterns where the witnesses were supposed to sign their names, but unfortunately, they didn't actually sign in this geometric patterns at the bottom. They signed just below the text of the ketubah. I'm pointing with the mouse. And this 5 is a conspicuous emphasis on the number 5, and it can be found in contracts of Herat and also in Persian contracts. And this use of the 5-fold motifs was intentional because number 5, the Hamza, is considered to have magical and protective powers in Islamic as well as in Jewish cultures. Now, the verses that are inscribed in the frames surrounding the third frame, in fact, or the second rather, the second frame, all these verses are taken from Isaiah chapter 61. So, some of them, other inscriptions that one can find here are also for good omen and Simantov, and they are called Siman Ora, Siman Bracha, Siman Gilah, and so forth, and they are all listed here in the upper area of the ketubah. I'm coming here to a magnificent ketubah that we purchased only around 2000 for the library. We purchased it from the Sassoon collection. And that is a ketubah that was given in Calcutta in India in 1887. And this ketubah has got charming elements based on the local flora and fauna. You have the sort of the lions at the very top, and you have the peacocks, and they all symbolize good luck and long life. And then you have the 2 silvery fish for fertility. And ketubot from India also have a very colorful kind of stylized frames populated with birds in this case, and colorful flowers. It's a very charming and very beautifully inscribed ketubah. Also, the layout of the ketubah at the very top, in these 2 halves or 2 compartments, you have what we call the subscription, and then the text of the ketubah in Aramaic with all the elements, and the signatures of the edim are at the very bottom here. The second half of it, of the ketubah. I also said that I didn't want, ladies and gentlemen, to show you any ketubot apart from the Genizah one and the Italian one from Calabria that contain no adornments whatsoever, no embellishment. I didn't want to show you more ketubot that contain just the text itself and the signatures of the witnesses. I wanted to show you a selection of our beautiful collection of decorated marriage contracts. And the last example is actually not hand painted. It's not, it is on parchment, but it is actually formed it has been produced by copper engraving. The whole frame seen here, it's a copper engraving frame based on the design that was first used in Amsterdam in the 17th century. And we know that in Amsterdam, there was a Sephardi, well-established Sephardi community. And there was also, since Cromwell allowed Jews to return to this country in the 17th century, there was also a well-established Sephardi community in London. So this particular ketubah, which has got very charming elements, again, you see this sort of the ketubah centered in the middle, and you have these vases and elements framing it. And at the top, you have two narratives, a dating couple on the right at the very top, and then a mother with two children, symbolizing motherhood and fertility, and two angels opening a drapery over the ketubah. This particular marriage contract was, it's one of two. We have the same ketubah dating from 1764, a marriage that took place in London in 1764, was also recorded in the same kind of document. So we have two of the same kind, but two different couples that married in England. This one married in 1802. I'm trying to find the exact data, the exact names of the couple. The name, the contract documents the union of Elazar, son of David Tsarfati, and that was the bridegroom, and of course the bride's name was Rachel, daughter of Joseph Cortizos. So they were a couple from the Sephardi community in London. So I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you have enjoyed the beautiful examples from our collection. And I thank you very much indeed for your attention. And I'm sorry if I sort of got quite passionate about some of them, and I went and explaining what I love about them.
No, passion is good. Thank you very much indeed, Ilana. That was a fascinating tour of the Jewish world through the ketubot. So if there are any questions, please do type them in the chat. We're already having compliments there for you, Ilana.
That's very kind of everyone, you know, to give up their time to listen to me.
No, it's great. And of course, can you mention the exhibition that will be on at the British Library when it reopens?
Yes, this exhibition called Hebrew Manuscripts, Journeys of the Written Word, was supposed to open just before COVID began, the pandemic began in March 2020. It opened and closed it, you know, sporadically throughout 2020, and during the lockdown, the most recent lockdown, of course, there was no access to visitors into the British Library, but it reopens next Tuesday on the 18th of May, and it will stay open until Sunday, the 6th of June.
Lovely. So for those of you in England, in London, please go along and visit that exhibition.
Nandan has some questions.
Yes, yes.
Nandan, can you hear us?
I have a small question.
Yes.
During the time period before the Second World War, yes, a lot of people opted to have proxy marriages so that young girls could kind of travel easily, escape from Europe and go to America or any other place, you know. And so would the ketubah have indicated the nature of this proxy marriage and the absent groom and the stand-in person, any such thing?
I mean, I haven't come across any kind of this kind of ketubah, But I would imagine that if it is a proxy one, would it be approved by the rabbinic court?
Yeah.
I wonder if it would. I think it wouldn't. We're talking here about ketubot between couples married, you know, for the first time, or maybe with a divorcee. We're not talking about a proxy. I don't think that is possible in our culture, in our tradition.
Oh, but the fact remains that there were proxy marriages.
But were they actually written by a rabbi, or were they written by a secular, a lay person in a sort of like a lay wedding? Because these were proxy weddings. They are not religious weddings. This is my question. I doubt. I've never come across. And I have a very important book. I'll show it to you all, which is on my desk now, which of course I refer to quite often, and it's one of many. We also have it in the library. And this is a book called The Ketubah, very heavy, by Shalom Sabar. And in this book, he is actually analyzing and describing hundreds of ketubot, but none of them is the kind of ketubah that will be by proxy. But I think what we're talking about here, it's ketubot approved by rabbinical courts.
Okay.
Whether
Next,
in the
and then-
Sephardi community or Ashkenazi community.
Yeah.
And I think a proxy one, in my view, would be given in a lay kind of, by a lay or organization, you know, a civil marriage.
Civil marriage.
Yes.
Nigel, then Sarah. Then
Okay.
Sarah, sorry.
Nigel.
Yeah, thank you for a great talk. I want to ask you about the Modena ketubah, where
Yes.
you said that the date had been altered, the secular date.
Yes.
Presumably, did they try and alter the Hebrew date as well? Is that how you know?
Well, yeah, well, the date on the ketubah is in Hebrew, the Hebrew, according to the Hebrew, Hameshet Alafim something. So they altered some of the Hebrew to make it earlier, to increase its value.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Can you hear me today? Can you hear me?
There's a bit of an echo.
There's an echo.
Yeah.
There's a
bit of an echo.
There's an echo.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Go ahead.
if there's an echo, it's going to be a nuisance. I didn't really have a question. Ilana, thank you so much. It was really fascinating, and to see all these wonderful ketubot. I think I really just answered someone else. It was Tony and Anne Korn were asking about why Aramaic was used for so long.
Well, that is a very good question. Thank you very much. By the way, thank you for all the questions that were raised this evening, to all the audience. Aramaic was the lingua franca for centuries in Babylonia. Yes? This is where it all started. The first clauses of the ketubah began to appear in the Babylonian and Palestinian Talmud. And at that point in Babylonia, we talk in Babylonia, 5th century, 3rd to 5th century to 6th century, the lingua franca was Aramaic. This is how, and the Babylonian Talmud contains Aramaic. Yes, we know that. The Gemara and the Mishnah is in Hebrew, Gemara is in Aramaic. This is how it all started. But I showed you the examples. For instance, that ketubah from Calabria from 15th century, it used Judeo-Italian words. Amazing, amazing. I mean, I couldn't actually, I tried to translate some of the words, but maybe they were medieval words that are no longer in use nowadays. So this is why Aramaic was with language.
Michael, I think you've got two devices on. Could you turn them off? Michael, I think you've got two devices on. Could you turn them off, please?
Why was it continued till now? It's because it's a tradition. If the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, set out the tone for the writing of a ketubah, although there was not a precise formula, it evolved. I try to explain that it evolved. Every generation, every period added something to the clauses. I think the skeleton remained in Aramaic. That was the tradition. We have to keep to the tradition.
A question from Anne and Michael Crook. Are you able to tell us anything about the paints used on the brightly colored ketubot, and how have the colors lasted so long?
Well, the one from Modena, I said that it has a cut pattern. You know, when you start cutting patterns and the colors were organic colors. For instance, the blue was a mineral called lapis lazuli. And we know that in Italy, lapis was used not only in Jewish manuscripts, but in paintings, in altars, and also in non-Jewish manuscripts. So lapis is a mineral from Afghanistan. That's the best place where it comes from. And it was brought. It was a very expensive commodity. So it was pounded, grounded, and mixed with various other, gum arabic and various other elements to produce the color that was applied. So that's one color. The vermilion, they say, comes from some mollusk. There were green was from parsley. So there was quite a lot of minerals and organic products that were used in order to produce colors and pigments. What we call them pigments. Is that an answer? Thank you for your question. Thank you.
Sarah, you had another question. If you don't mind, I'll read it out. When did the cursive Rashi style start to be incorporated? The early script, of course, was in the square Hebrew letters. So when did the Rashi start?
I mean, Rashi script, it's called Rashi, but unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the Solomon ben Isaac of Troyes, because Rashi is the acronym of this important Bible commentator, Rashi, yes, Solomon ben Isaac of Troyes. It is a script which is semi-cursive. Mm-hmm. It is a script that is not cursive, it's semi, but you have to be able to familiarize yourself with the shapes of the letters because they are not straightforward. Now, when it comes to cursive, you've seen that some of the ketubot are easily legible. You can read them through because they are in square script. Some of them are in cursive script. That's not Rashi. It's very ligature, sort of cursive. It's what we write on a daily, on a regular basis. And semi-cursive, it's the kind of Rashi script, what we call Rashi script. Now, when it came into use, I don't think it came into use before the 16th century. That particular type, it's a kind of type used. It's not so handwritten, it's more in printing, in prints, in books, it appears mostly. Now, the semi-cursive script appears a lot in manuscripts, and it is a bit easier to read than the cursive. I could not read all the elements in some of the ketubot that are very sort of difficult, some of them are illegible, so you have to get accustomed to every letter in order to be able to read.
Hope that answered your question there, Sarah.
Hope so.
Are there any more questions? I don't think there are they? Are there? So,
Sarah, of all, it's Lawrence, it's Lynn's husband, of all the ketubahs you've seen, which one have you found the most beautiful and why, or the most special?
have you unmuted her? Oh, what? Ilana?
Ilana, I mean, Ilana.
Yeah, Ilana.
You see, decoration is fantastic, and I think the Italian ones, and I mean, I only showed you two, but there are so many more in our collections, and they are all beautifully decorated, and the colors and everything, the shapes and everything is absolutely glorious, splendidly embellished. But I found that 15th century from Calabria in Judeo-Italian quite fascinating, because I've never come across anything like that, where you combine, when you write the whole dowry, the entire dowry, everything is measured in the value. You say mita, the bed, it has this size, kaha bekaha amot. Amot is from the, yeah, it gives you the exact dimensions, and it tells you the value in coins. Now, how dare he to divorce her? He will have to pay a lot of money for every single object.
I have a cheeky question, Ilana. If the betula was worth so much, was the betula, was it always mentioned that the bride was a virgin in the contract, or was it just occasionally, or what?
I think in Jewish communities, you'd expect when the couple, gets married, you would expect that. But of course, who are we to, to dispute the condition? But you've seen in the Cairo Genizah ketubah, he said grushato.
Yeah.
He's divorcee. I mean, the man obviously had a problem after divorcing his wife, wanting her back and remarrying her. So here we go. Yeah, I mean, this ketubot, as I said, they mirror the community. They mirror the socioeconomic situation of the couple, the traditions, what they value. I mean, they are fascinating documents, historic documents, traditional documents. Call them what you may, but they are fascinating. And I like the one from Lisbon.
Yeah.
So this is according enactment of the ketubah according to the Megurashim Mikastilia.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Zara, and after her Shula. So Zara, do you want to ask a question? Zahra.
Hi, how are you? Nice meeting all of you today.
All the way from Egypt.
All the way from Egypt, but very interesting topic for me, especially for my research. Thanks very much. First of all, is the color has a special significance, because I already have seen some ketubah with blue color, and most of the Egyptian one were in a blue color. Is it a special significance, or it's just normal?
Is it because I know that, for instance, in Iraq, people like jewelry made of this blue, very pale blue mineral. What do you call it?
Turquoise or labizuli.
Yes. So, I mean, certain communities might have a preference for various colors, like you've seen the Herat one had some kind of pinkish purple all around it, and it had colorful vases with pinkish flowers. I mean, certain communities, they are very colorful, I think these bright colors embellish the documents so much more than having a dull color, isn't it?
Okay. Second one, which is it the same ketubah for the divorced woman? Same, like, for example, if she will remarry once more, is it exactly like the first marriage?
it should be. Just that the price.
Yeah, the price is different.
The sum
The price is
not
less.
the same. That's
Yes.
half.
Because I already have seen some ketubah, which is it's mainly for some of my family about the 18th century, which is I found if she get divorced, which is the dowry was totally different. Even in 2 cases, I have seen that says a woman, she paid the dowry, and it was very critical for me. I didn't understand why.
Well, but I think that first of all, a bill of divorce is not going to be decorated. I've never seen bills of divorce that have this beautiful decoration. Unless you want to celebrate, I don't know. Maybe nowadays people do that. It's only for, marriages. But when you are marrying a divorcee and it is mentioned, have you seen in that one, it's mentioned, but the price will not be the same. And maybe I'll tell you one other thing. Some couples were not rich. Some couples were very poor. So they didn't have the means to indicate and specify large sums of money in their marriage contract. So they couldn't even maybe commission a beautifully decorated ketubah. We're talking here about affluent people. You understand that? Because you have to commission it. You have to engage a scribe to write the text, and then you have to have an artist decorating it. So it's affluent people, mostly.
Okay, we've got next 3 questions. We have Shula, then Joe, then Leslie.
Okay.
So Shula.
Thank you very much for your question, Zara. Zara, is it Zara?
Zahra.
Zahra.
Zahra. Thank you, Zahra.
Shula has turned into Philip. My memory is that in Goethe's book about the Genizah, from time to time, there would be a ketubah which would start, a dinar is a dinar. And the reason for that was to show that you did have the money you stipulated. There was a kind of convention that if you were rather poor, you might multiply everything by 10. So this would look as though the bride was rather wealthier than she was. And I wondered whether that convention had been repeated in Europe or other places.
You mean the ketubah? Thank you, sir. You mean the ketubah, the text starts that a dinar is a dinar.
A dinar. We have the money.
I must say, in our collection, I haven't come across that. However, you say that maybe it's in the Genizah. I mean, in Taylor Schechter, they have a lot more marriage contracts from that particular classic period of the Genizah between 10th and 13th century. So maybe it's mostly apparent in Palestinian ketubot. Now, it could be that element in that particular category of ketubot. I have not come across the European ones. The European ones are much later, of course, and they follow the standard format, the standard formula.
Okay, thank you. Joe, I think it's your turn.
Sir. Thank you.
Joe, do you have a question? Yes?
You need to unmute yourself, Joe.
No,
Leslie, do you want to go first and then Joe?
Hi, Lana. The ketubah you showed us from Gibraltar,
Yes.
in the top section, why was the writing slanted?
Let's have another look. Can we go back, please?
The share screen.
Yeah, the share screen's it's enabled. You can go back.
Okay, I'll go
It
back.
was slanting from left upwards to right.
Are you talking about what is beneath the arched?
Yeah, the top part of it. I can't see it, but the top part.
Besimana tava umazala yaya. Yes.
I can't see it, but the top part was written as a slant.
Ilana.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Then you can. Now, how do I go back to?
You click on the green share screen button, and then it should come up.
Okay, let me. let me go back and share that. Share, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yes, that's it.
Now,
Yeah,
I'm going
No, the Gibraltar one.
it was the Gibraltar one.
from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Now, at the top, beneath the arch with the little ribbon, yes?
Yeah, well, why isn't it straight? Why isn't it level? It looks like it's lopsided to me.
Well, obviously the scribe didn't actually follow a line. He should have lined very gently. He should have, you know, lined the parchment first. So he made a little mistake. It is a bit slanted. But if you look at the actual ketubah, it's much straighter. And you can
Yeah, no, I understand. But I
height.
was wondering if there was a reason why the top part was slanted.
It was just his hand went a bit sort of slanted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bad workmanship. Thank you very much.
No, pleasure. Thank you.
Is Joe, Joe, are you there? Joe Samuels, are you there? If not, can we have Edwin Dweck? Edwin.
Yes, I would like to know if most ketubot are on display, or are they kind of hidden in the walls?
Now I mentioned, I can't get myself back to, hang on a minute, how do I get back myself? Here. I mentioned that we have an exhibition. Who is the person who is asking me the question? Hello.
Edwin,
Hello,
yes.
sir. I thank you for your question. We have an exhibition that will begin on Tuesday. It will reopen on Tuesday until Sunday, the 6th of June. And in that exhibition, there are two ketubot. There is one from India, from Calcutta, not the one I showed tonight from the Sassoon collection, another one that we purchased more recently, very beautifully ornamented. And there is the Tangier one that I showed, the one from Morocco. So they are both in that exhibition. If you do want to see more ketubot, you'll have to become a reader, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Come into our reading room.
Very nice lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
Next we have Kenneth. Kenneth, I'm sure I'll bring Bollywood into ketubot now.
I just wanted to ask you about.
Yes, Mr. Robbins. Yes.
I just wanted to ask you about a ketubah in my collection. It's very similar to the one you had, dated 1910 from Faizabad, India. But the interesting thing about this is the woman was widowed, and she had a second ketubah made. Is that common?
Hang on a minute. You said you have a ketubah in your collection from 1910 in India.
Very similar to yours.
Similar to ours, the sort of kind of decorative elements, you know, yes. But why would she be given a second ketubah? Did she get divorced and then remarried?
Her husband died, and then she got remarried.
Okay, so that makes sense. That's why she would have another ketubah, because she married somebody else.
Yes, but is that common for a woman to have the second ketubah?
I think so. If you are a divorcee, a widow, if she was a widow, yes, widowhood. Obviously, according to the terms of her first ketubah, she would have got all the financial support from the heirs. In other words, from the sons of her first husband, because that's according to the terms of the ketubah, and then, because she's a widow, she can remarry. And when she remarried, with rabbinic approval, she has to have another ketubah. And in the ketubah, it will say grusha. Yes? No grusha, it will say widow. Almana. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so
I think we've gone
through all the questions.
If anyone has a question, now let me
great lecture.
Or raise your hand.
Or forever hold your peace.
It's your last chance.
I think that's it now.
Okay.
So on that very happy note,
do your thank yous first.
Yes, Thank you so much, Ilana, and thank you for going
through
all that trouble of putting this together for us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, it was absolutely wonderful. And those of you who are in London and can get to the British Library, we highly recommend the Hebrew manuscripts, the written word exhibition, which is on until the 6th of June.
We also have, yes, I just wanted to say, Lynn, that we do have a 3-dimensional tour. For people who can't reach there, I can send it to you and you can distribute that. And that will carry on beyond the closure of the exhibition until 2023.
Oh, excellent. So you've got plenty of time to catch that tour.
Yes,
that's great.
Virtual tour.
Yeah.
Virtual.
The virtual tour.
The link which everyone wanted is in the chat, and I'll repeat it again. I'll send it out again.
Well, for the manuscript.
The manuscript, yeah.
Yep. Have a look in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat
so
again.
While you're doing this, I just want to mention some forthcoming events. This week, exceptionally, we have 2 events, not just Ilana's lecture tonight, but one on Thursday, which will deal with Middle East and North African Jews and the Holocaust. And this is being co-organized with the Simon Wiesenthal Center. So it takes place on Thursday. All the details are on the Harif website, 7 o'clock this coming Thursday, the 13th of May. And next week, our lockdown lecture will be on Wednesday and not our usual Tuesday because of Shavuot. And it will be about an amazing man who was the Israeli ambassador to Iran for 15 years. Right. And his granddaughter will be talking about Meir Ezri, his accomplishments, and a lot more besides. Right, so I hope to see you then.
I've also had 3 more people who've asked to raise questions. So
okay.
We're trying again with Anne and Tony Crook in Brighton.
Yeah.
We're trying with Ben as well.
Sorry, Ilana, you can't retire just yet.
No, I'm happy to answer. I'm happy.
Okay, all those who are still with us, please, please stay.
If you're unmuted, please ask your question now.
Yeah, you've actually got Tony. Ilana, that was excellent. Thank you very much. Indeed. I'm sorry to keep you for another moment. Can you just say, do the Ashkenazim now start to do decorated ketubot, or is it still just plain?
I believe that nowadays you can commission a ketubah, and Ashkenazim as well as Sephardim can commission ketubot. In America, it's a very common thing to commission a ketubah when you get married, but so is in this country. And I know a particular lady who is a calligrapher and an artist, and she receives commissions. People can order from her ketubot or agadot or so forth. Pardon?
Combien de générations dans ta ketubah mentionnées? Combien de générations sont mentionnées dans ta ketubah?
Je veux vous répondre, madame, tout à l'heure. Excusez-moi pour un moment, je veux répondre au monsieur Cohn.
Non. Je suis unmuted.
So what I wanted to say is that you asked me whether the Ashkenazim are using now. Yes, they do. And in the exhibition, I have to come back to our exhibition, we also have a modern ketubah that was given to a friend of mine when she got married 2 years ago. And she's from the Ashkenazi community, and she commissioned this ketubah, and it's all beautifully ornamented, and it is in that exhibition. So people do, Ashkenazim also are actually ordering this kind of beautified documents when they get married.
So the Ashkenazim have caught up with the Sephardim.
Why not? Yes.
Thank you,
Trailblazers, you know,
Right.
Tony.
Ralph.
Now, the lady who asked me in French, she asked me about the generations, yes? How many, why do we have so many generations mentioned? That is to make absolutely sure that the people who are getting, you know, they are getting married are of Jewish descent. This is why in some ketubot, you have 3, 4 names after bar so-and-so, bar so-and-so, bar so-and-so, to make sure to, you know, to testify I'm of Jewish descent. That's the reason.
Okay, Ralph.
Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, just as
Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Yeah, just as a bit of fun, can you have the photo of the wedded couple, husband and wife, on the ketubah?
The photo?
Yeah, to make sure they're married. It's the right person.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's very interesting, sir, that you are asking me this question.
Yeah.
Many years in Israel, yes, when I got married, they asked me to provide a picture, and so was my husband. And on my ketubah, you have the 2 pictures of myself and my husband. But that's modern times. It's not 19th century.
Yeah.
So
if
yes,
someone,
yes, I have, you know, I have the proof on my ketubah. It's not decorated.
if someone gets married 2 or 3 times, they can have 2 or 3 wives on the same ketubah.
No.
I'm not sure if, according to the halacha, this is allowed. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask a rabbi.
Maybe in Yemen. Okay.
Yeah.
So this lady here, yeah, please go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes, please do.
In my husband's family, he's from Fez, and he's got 6 generations on his ketubah, from the mother, the daughter, 6 generations.
Very important. Very important.
But was this
Not nowadays? People, they do 2 to 3 generations.
Was it something peculiar to the Sephardim who actually had gone through, I don't know,
I don't know.
How
is it that you had 6 generations in your?
Yes, it could be that.
Because he's from his great uncle is Rabbi Yosef Benaim from Fez, and so that's where the customs comes from.
Exactly. So sometimes you have, like you said, 6 generations, but in some you see there are 3 generations. In Yemen, you might have 6 as well. It depends which community we're talking about. And of course, if they have a rabbi, a leading rabbi in the family, they would have to have all these. It's also an historical fact. The son of so and the son of that and the son of that. You know, you keep the lineage, all the descendants.
In the ketubot that you have seen, did you meet this type of ketubah with 6 generations?
The ones that I showed this evening, I think the most generations were 3, and it was
3.
And it was the one from it was the one from Tangier, from Morocco. Esther Bat Benjamin Bar Solomon Bar Itzhak. 3 names are mentioned, 3 generations.
Right.
It was from
Thank you.
From Morocco, 1886.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth, you're far away.
Yes, I wondered whether the custom of putting the lineage might be to do with conversos, who might want to be certifying their Jewishness by going back to the last person that was recognized as Jewish.
This is very likely and very logical and very sensible. So I totally agree that that must be one of the reasons, especially in some of these Portuguese and Portuguese, late 19th century Portuguese, because as I said, some of these people who returned to re-establish communities in Portugal may have had descendants, but who knows what happened in their history. So they wanted to make absolutely sure that they do give some, you know, they make sure that they are of Jewish stock, so to speak. So you are right, madam. You may be absolutely right. So this is the reason, because of the, and also because it says, according to Takanot Megurashim Shel Castilia, the people who were expelled from Castilia. This is also very important. They can't forget that they were expelled and that God would avenge them for these things. I mean, this is poignant, powerful, for me anyway.
Okay, we have Pickle Lake Ontario want to speak. I don't know.
That's Holly. That's me.
Hi,
I changed. Oh, I forgot to change my name when I came back again. I'm
okay.
sorry. All
We
right.
know who you are.
You know it's me. Okay.
Yeah,
I
no,
want to thank you, Ilana, for the talk very much. I want to ask, have any descendants ever come to the British Library realizing, oh, you know, that was my great grandparents' ketubah. They got married 1892 in Morocco. Has that ever happened?
Well, this is a wonderful question. And I've been in the British Library from 1989, and unfortunately, nobody has come to say this person was from my family. I'm sorry. No, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Ilana. Come back again. Thank you. Very enjoyable talk. Thank you, Lynn.
Ariel, we'll make Ariel the last one.
Okay, Ariel, last word. The last word from Ariel.
Yes.
Ariel, you're on.
Uh-oh. Funny sounds coming.
Ariel?
Can't hear him. No.
There is some problem.
Something wrong with your sound, Ariel. I'm sorry.
Maybe he can write it in the chat.
Read the question.
Yeah, okay. Let's see if there's a question in the chat. Let's see, where is it?
In the chat. It's about his parents' ketubah.
Ah, okay. He just wants to say that is exactly what's written on the ketubah of his parents, Takanot Rabbanei Castilla. Isn't that amazing?
And where is this gentleman from?
So he is from, he's from Morocco. He's half Sephardi and half Ashkenazi, and he's his mother's from, yeah, his father's from Morocco.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, it's fantastic. Yes, and that appears in many of the ketubot. I can see it now from Megurashei Sfarad. Yes, from those expelled from Sephardi. They want to keep to their traditions, and that is Katanot Castilla. Yeah.
And I wonder if it says, "May God avenge our expulsion" on Ariel's parents' ketubah. I wonder if that's Ariel. You've got to check it out.
Try and talk again. I've asked you to unmute. Should you try again, Ariel? It might be better.
Let's hear.
To unmute.
Hi, Ariel. Is that better now?
No, sorry. It sounds like Pinky and Perky. I'm sorry.
It is interesting because, as I said, some of the Sephardi, post-expulsion, they settled in the Balkans, they settled in the Ottoman Empire, they settled in North Africa. So here we go.
Yes.
Communities that sprung up.
Yeah.
from the Sfaradim, the expelled population from Sfarad and Portugal.
With very long memories.
Yeah.
So on that note, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for all of you who stayed this long with us.
Thank you.
Almost 2 hours. And thank you, Ilana, for your fantastic wealth of knowledge. And it was fascinating.
Now, Ilana, am I allowed to leave it on Facebook, let's say, until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, we'll leave it on, in fact, till midday tomorrow. Until midday tomorrow, anyone can still see Facebook.
Yeah. Of course,
down.
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Len.
And hope to see you on Thursday for our next.
Everyone can now unmute themselves if you want to say good night.
Bye bye. Thank you, Ilana.
Thank you.
Len.
Bye.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was fascinating.
Wonderful. Very interesting. Okay.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Zara.
Ariel. Oui, je regrette que.
Good night. Good night. Thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Ne va pas avec ton le son.
Thank you.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, 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 ça,
ah,
ça
voilà,
va.
m'entendez. Voilà, c'est ma sœur qui a arrangé avec un artiste la ketubah de mes parents.
Oui.
Et donc, bon, elle me l'a donné, je voudrais faire une reproduction. Elle est sur parchemin.
Oui.
Et